We have the live button here on Monday, Ovadia Heart Health Livestream. I'm so excited to be joined by two wonderful people. We have Josh Espinoza from Los Angeles, and one of the top trainers in not only the Los Angeles area, but nationwide. He's going to be telling us a little bit more about what he's doing and his work and anything else that Jeremiah and I come up with. And my colleague Jeremiah Sarkett. Hi, Jeremiah.
Good to be back with you, my friend.
And welcome, Josh.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first, housekeeping business. As always, we need to put up our medical disclaimer. Yes, we are Ovadia Heart Health team. However, this live stream, as well as any of our other employee wellness live streams, are just for educational and empowerment purposes. This is not for personal medical health. So if you do have a question, you're curious about our team, put that question to team@ifixhearts.com for all your medical questions. All right, housekeeping is done and we're off. And well, Josh, we hope we have some of your fans that are tuning in, but for those people who don't know about your fabulous work, can you fill us in a little bit?
Oh man, to think I have fans is fun. Clients, fans, some would say, subjects. No. Well, I've been training people. I've been doing personal training for, going on 13 years now. It's been a while, and it's been a long journey. I started out working more in hospital and clinical settings, working with people that were post-surgery and post-rehab. And as I did that, I've transitioned over to working with people to make lifestyle changes outside of that setting. And it's been great. I'm sure we'll get more into it as time goes on. What I do now is I train people. I train other trainers in the Los Angeles area. I do it for Equinox. I also teach trainers outside of Equinox, just in the LA area. And when I'm not doing that, I also have my own private practice where I take on clients where we pretty much work on making them the best that they can be to do everything they need to do in their daily life. But I love it. Honestly, it's training has been rewarding in every way possible. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I've got a host of questions, but Jeremiah, I'm going to let you, the sports enthusiast, kick it off.
I was going to say, thank you, Chris. So let me go first. I'm dying over here. I'm missing you last week too. So good to be back with you guys. We're keeping it going. And just excited about Josh and what he's going to bring to this session today. But just the first question, Josh, you mentioned that you have a bit of a waiting list. Like, where am I on that waiting list? And are we on the list, or have we jumped anybody yet?
Yeah, I mean, Krisna's definitely off the waiting list. She's been with me as a client for quite a bit of time, and I would say we could squeeze you in there somewhere. We could try to figure it out. I don't know. It depends how early you want to work in the morning.
I get after it. Krista knows this. Let's go.
Okay. All right.
Jeremiah, getting right to the heart of it. Well, I'm going to kick one off because this is something we talk about, and those who are listening know that we have a really metabolic health focus, but goal setting, that is something that, some clients do really well with, some not so well, or they come in and out of that. What would you say your approach to goal setting is with your clients, and that motivation piece that always comes in?
Yeah, I think in doing this for a long time, you find so many different types of people out there, and everybody has goals ranging from I want to lose 60 pounds to I want to be able to play with my kids or my grandkids, or and they're all just such a wide variety of things. But ultimately, the thing that matters with goal setting is figuring out why they want to do it, right? Like I said, like they want to play with their kids or be able to move and go on vacation with their family. And what I found over time is that a lot of people set these really big, ambitious day goals, which are great, but then they fail to set smaller goals along the way, right? Because it's easy to talk about something that's like a year from now or 2 years from now, but then as that time goes on, if there's not small goals in between that are measurable and attainable and realistic, then it can be discouraging, and people eventually are questioning, like, why am I doing this, and am I even making progress? But I found that helping people sit down and say, hey, that's a great goal, but like, let's break it up into some smaller chunks, and let's figure out really why we're doing this, right? And asking people why is always a good exercise. And an exercise that we tend to teach is that we ask why typically about 5 times to get to the real answer of what they're working on. Yeah, you really get to the heart of it, and that's what matters when someone's waking up at 5 a.m. to do a workout, to do a training program, eating the right foods and making those right decisions for themselves. That's what pushes through it.
Yeah. I love that. And that connects totally to one of our, we help people put a My Wellness plan together. And at the top of that, and that's for companies on the whole, but individuals, is why do you want to be healthy? Because if you can't answer that question, it's going to be very hard to fill in all the other pieces of the puzzle.
What's the point? Yeah. Why? It's hard. It's going to be hard. But like, why do you want?
I like how you start with why, Josh. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to ask how you ask about why, but I mean, you ask 5 times, so you're asking frequently.
I try not to ask the word why directly. Why can feel a little like interrogative, right? It feels like you're like interrogating somebody. You're like, tell me right now, right? But it helps to like summarize and really say like, hey, this sounds like a great goal. What made you want to work on this now, right? Did you ever want to work on this in the past? And then you really work your way through that, and asking why in different ways ultimately is how I get there usually. A younger me probably asked why directly 5 times. Me as like a 20-year-old probably asked why directly, and probably wasn't as successful about it. So I don't recommend that one. But if you're open to it, maybe.
Yeah, great. Well, it's a little bit in that avenue too, and I will flash up. We have several white papers for anyone interested in, because I'm going to ask about the mindset, the mental aspect, and one of our white papers is why mindset matters, and we're approaching it from the metabolic health aspect. But can you talk a little bit about that? How mindset matters, and how is that something you work on with your clients? And because it is a big piece from our work in the metabolic health space.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, mindset, right? There's all kinds of like terminology out there, and if you're on social media and TikTok, you see all kinds of different things that come up. But ultimately, I like to refer back to there's a book called Mindset, and it talks about research done on people with a growth mindset and people with a closed mindset, or like a non-growth mindset. And ultimately, working on this idea of a growth mindset with people, it takes time. And it has to do with the way people speak about their day, the way they speak about their abilities to do things. And it creates a big impact in how they approach their daily life, as opposed to even obstacles. And if you're asking what's a mindset, it's the way we look at things. It's the way that we see something. And if you put this in the context of exercise, and you're like, man, I really hate doing squats. I don't like doing squats. I'm just not good at them. And if you've ever said that to yourself, you've said, I'm just not good at that squat, I can't do it. Then that is what is a closed mindset, right? And on the flip side, a growth mindset, this idea of I can get better at something, is seen when a client or someone looks at something like a squat that they can't do well, and they say, you're like, man, that's hard, but I'm going to keep working on it and I'm going to get better at it. And it's accepting like there's room for improvement, right? And there's room for me to grow further, instead of just writing it off as like, it's always going to be that way. And there's no way I can change it. Because if we don't think that we can grow, if we don't think that we can get better, then that's going to translate to our ability to exercise and do something new, or to, eat the right things, because it doesn't translate immediately. It takes time. It takes time for those results to show. It's not overnight, but it's definitely, mindset is something I work on with people every hour that I see them. Yeah. Every day. Like if they say something that is a little off, I hear them and I'm like, yeah, but let's look at it this way, right? Let's look at it this other way.
Well, Josh, with that said, what advice would you give to somebody that might just be starting their fitness journey or starting their journey again? Maybe they're older and they're having to pick it back up because they see where they're headed. Like, so give me a little bit there on that mindset piece and how you would talk to somebody that needs to get going a bit more.
Yeah, I think those are two different people, right? And I think one, you have to congratulate yourself on saying like, hey, if you did this before, then you know that you have it in you to do it again, right? Like it's in there, right? And just approaching it as like I'm going to exercise this muscle of growth and learning new things, and we're going to improve upon it from where we picked up from where we were last time. And then if it's someone who has never done it before, then congratulations, because you have what a lot of us want, and that's what we call beginner gains, where you're able to get way stronger and way better, way quicker, right? It takes me a long time to get stronger by 5 pounds on a bench press. And then if it's someone who's new, they can increase their strength really quickly because they're newer and they haven't exercised this muscle. But ultimately, in terms of mindset, like really surrounding yourself with other people that you want to be like, that might be doing the same thing, or maybe they're just like 2 steps ahead of you, not way far ahead of you, but someone who maybe is new to exercising, but they're like 3 months in or 5 months in, who has this mindset, is someone that you might want to hang around a little bit more. And there's also podcasts and books, but like ultimately getting around people that speak that way is important. And people that don't speak that way, I would try to minimize interactions with that, with a closed mindset until you got a good handle on it. Yeah.
Nice, Josh.
I love that. That's a super practical tip. Something we talk about not only with our employee wellness programs, but find your tribe, find those people who are actually going to support your health, wellness, and fitness choices. Not only from a mindset perspective, but just a encouragement perspective.
Definitely. Because so many people, you start a new workout routine and people are like, why are you doing that? Why are you going out at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. and working out? Like, no, stay at home, stay here, just hang with us. Like there's got to be a balance, and you have to have that support system. And sometimes people don't want you to change, but sometimes they don't want you to change because they don't know why you want to change, right? Like, so you have to communicate to your support system, like, hey, I'm working on this because I need to be able to play with my kids when I'm older, or, whatever that why is. And if they don't know, it's hard for them to support you sometimes.
Yeah.
Nice, Josh. Yeah, that why again factor.
I love that. Right. And we say that too is, keep tapping into your why on a regular basis. So lovely. We had a question come in here while we're on. We got several questions actually. And someone said they tuning in from Glasgow, Scotland, just back from the gym.
Awesome.
Gotta love that, right? But
wild.
On the mindset piece, question from Rich says, is the nutrition mindset more difficult than the exercise
Ooh.
mindset for people? Ooh,
Great question,
okay.
Rich. Love
Yeah.
that. And thank you for the comments, you guys. Keep them coming. We'll grab all of them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this question, whenever you encounter people and like you talk to people, the correct answer is always usually it depends, right? Like that's the right one. And I think it depends because both of these things, nutrition and exercise, they're so interconnected with culture, right? With the culture of the nation that you're in, or the state or the city that you're in, as opposed to, it's really hard to separate them. And it's the same thing with your nutrition, right? Like, some people, if they grow up in a certain type of family, it's really hard to remove certain types of foods, or to stay away from certain types of foods. So that culture is really important too. But if you're talking about nutrition mindset in terms of like getting better at your nutrition, I would say that nutrition is a more touchy topic because it is so intertwined with culture, right? Like I work with clients of all backgrounds. And if you've ever tried, trying to coach a client that is, let's say, of a Korean ethnicity or a Japanese, you're never gonna win the battle of, hey, let's remove rice from our diet, or maybe for the time being, let's cut down on it. That's never happening. I'm not gonna win. I've learned that.
So you don't even try now.
No, not at all. And and there's Mexican culture where you're not gonna remove beans, right? So like there's just it's never about removing things. It's about, right now, it's just moderation. It's, hey, let's make some habit changes where we make better choices throughout the day, right? And ultimately it leads to little to no processed foods, only whole foods, right? That's what we're working on over time.
Yeah. And that is completely in line with what we promote as Dr. Philip Ovadia, our heart surgeon who leads our programs, is a whole foods diet. That's where you want to start with. And trying, again, I love this, what you talk about, the culture connection, because it is. And we find in our programs, the nutrition piece is more challenging in many ways, also because there's a lot of constant information, which is not necessarily always accurate when it comes to your own personal nutrition needs. But great question on there. And let's just talk about your training. Do you work nutritionally? Do you help sort of get people started on that in your training programs? Or do some people not want that? How does that go with what you're doing?
It depends on the person, right? Like you have to work with people. You have to meet them where they're at, right? And if they're ready to work on nutrition and they're ready to track their foods, then that's where we start. But if they're not, it's usually a little bit more challenging. So the easier stone to lift is to get the exercise portion done. But yeah, I work on nutrition with people, and usually what we found over time is that working on habits of nutrition is more sustainable in the long term, because giving someone a meal plan is just, it's hard to stick to that, right? If you're going to go out to celebrate a dinner or celebrate a birthday and you go out to dinner, it's really hard to have the same meal, whether that's like chicken and broccoli or salmon and black bean. Like it's hard to have that exact same meal on the meal plan when you're out celebrating. But if you know the habits and the little nutritional skills, you're able to modify the menu, and you can make do with what you got.
Nice. You can hack your way through that celebration, that dinner.
And you don't have to be the buzzkill that's like, oh, I can't go out because I can't eat anything. Right, because you hear
we have somebody in our circle that's like that. They made me think of them. They're amazing, though. By the way, we're always looking at them. We're like,
we got another comment in here from King Capricornio. That's what a great handle that is. Saying he's just coming back from a stroke. And
Wow.
while we're not giving personal medical advice or personal advice, but you started your career, Josh, working post rehab and medical clinic. But what would be some tips that you would offer to someone?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to be coming back from a stroke, but just some of your philosophies about coming back from an injury. I know, Jeremiah, you work with athletes that you're always having to, that's a natural course. Sometimes you get hurt.
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit, coming back.
Yeah.
Coming back to the mountain. And kudos to you, though, too, King, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's great. Like it's definitely good to be up and moving after that. I think, it's always hard to speak generally, right? But I think my advice would be to anybody is that that progress is built over time and it's consistency. And it doesn't have to be like, if you're coming back from an injury, depending on the severity of the injury or whatever the incident was, it doesn't have to be look like a gym session. It can look as simple as you being at home and getting up and down from your chair 10 times in a row, practicing a sit to stand or some form of a squat, or it can be just moving more in your daily life, right? Like choosing stairs or elevator. All those little choices we make where we manufacture so much comfort and convenience, if you can choose the opposite, usually those things are going to help build your capacity quicker after an injury or after something like this. That's what I would encourage people to do. And honestly, like physical therapy 100% works. You just got to do it. And you got to do the homework. They're going to give you a homework packet. You just have to do the homework packet. Every time someone's like, it doesn't work, they usually don't do the homework.
Not doing their exercises.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I encourage in our employee wellness programs is finding a small routine that addresses maybe some of your weaker spots. So let's say, I had 30 plus years as a professional dancer. Those hips can be problematic. I have a little 5-minute routine that I intersperse during the week at different times just to kind of stay mobile and stay limber. And I think the older we get, and I'm in that old category, those little mobility routines are crucial. That is not to put that PT routine they gave you in the closet and never bring it out again.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I would encourage everybody, like even if they're unable to work with a trainer, I would encourage trying to find somebody that is a coach or a trainer and work with them for at least 1 or 2 sessions and say, hey, like be very transparent. Just we do this for a living, it's our profession. And you just say, hey, I just need to help nail down a routine around mobility. Could you help me build something out over the next day or 2, right? And really focusing on that, and movement specialists like a trainer or physical therapist will target it based on your mobility. And man, it makes such a big difference in your day-to-day life. That's usually a part of like how I treat every one of my clients is they have their own personalized mobility routine and little stretch routine that they do in their workday, or at home. And usually it helps alleviate a lot of symptoms or a lot of things that are bothering them.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremiah, I see that you got a question on the front of your.
Krisna, you know me so well. I mean, we've been doing this for a minute. I get it. You're awesome like that. So, as a trainer, a top level trainer, right, and one of the meccas too, in LA, what are you seeing? Like, what's the working person plagued with? What are you running into as a trainer, and how can we, we as an employee be better in our workspace? Maybe, thinking employee wellness too, staying there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, with increasing frequency, you see what is called like a kyphosis usually. And it's usually like curvature of the upper spine. So like if you ever seen like an old cartoon and like someone has like a real forward folded back, or maybe like imagine your local librarian, it's usually that, right? And this posture, a lot of people write it off as like, it's not a big deal. But I see it more and more in younger people. I see it more and more in people that are 20, that are 16, I even have clients that are like 14 that already have this issue. And what they don't realize is that this forward posture, this forward rounding, is going to cause a lot of problems 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, or it's already causing problems, because it compromises the spine's ability to hold yourself upright. It compromises your ability to safely carry loads, right? If you're just carrying groceries or carrying a box, like your spine is built in a certain way to carry that thing efficiently. And if you're forward leaning, it's not good for you over time. But yeah, so I see a lot of this really bad posture, and it has a lot to do with our screen culture. It has a lot to do with our driving. You know, in this mecca of LA, it's like this city of the most healthy, unhealthy people, right? We have so much sitting. Yeah, we have so much sitting. We have so much screen time and disconnection from cultures and communities, right? Where we don't have this social aspect that is also integral to your health. I see a lot of that where, you know, training is important. I agree, but there should also be parts of our active lifestyle that is not serious about just exercise, but like physical activity, right? So tennis or rock climbing or hiking or something else that is fun that you can do for the long term.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. You know, there's of course I have a background in the Pilates world, but Joseph Pilates said you are only as old as your spine is flexible.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I see a lot of inflexible spines. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And, you know, I loved also, I just want to track back a little bit to this idea of, certainly as having background professional dancer, you took classes or you trained your whole life, every day, even before rehearsal, you would go to class.
Yeah.
We need to encourage people. Let's say you can't afford a trainer, but I love this idea of maybe take 1 or 2 sessions, like save up your money, do that, because the benefits that you can get from that, whether it's about your posture, your technique, that you've got yourself a toolbox to go forward. And I think there's a lot of people that get injured because of poor technique. You know, or poor posture or something. That I love that thought of, you know, ask them for a routine.
Yeah. And I think being very direct is important, right? Like setting expectations. You know, I have clients that I see for, maybe I check their form once in a while. I have clients who are very frequent. You know, it ranges from all over the place. And you know, I am just trying to help people, and everybody in this job, I guarantee you, everybody that's doing personal training just wants to help people. So it's not a hard conversation to say, hey, would you help me do this? You know, I'm trying to figure out how to make my shoulders more mobile and help me build a routine. Yeah, people would be happy to help.
And just for our listeners, if people want to get in touch with you, Josh, where's the best? I think we've got there we go, longevity training.
Yeah. You can always reach me on that email or that website. My email address will be on there. I am also on social media, but honestly, I get a lot of messages, and I would stick to the email. Yeah, we're definitely a large influx there.
Yeah. All right, very good. What do you think is the most underrated or underutilized aspect of training these days amongst us common folks, not amongst the, you know, athletes, sports, but amongst us common folks?
Underutilized. You mean like the way that people train in terms of like the types of.
Right. We know everybody loves to look at their biceps, and we'll see them, you know, in the gym on the hours with the biceps. It's very, you know, they think it's kind of sexy, but maybe there's some less sexy things that we all should be doing.
Yeah. You know, I have clients that I work on a lot of different things with, but ultimately, you know, when it comes down to it, every big movement in the gym, when you think about it, like a squat, you go down, you go up, right? With a deadlift, you go down, you go up, right? This is what a plane of motion that we call, it's pretty much, there's 3 planes of motion, right? And a lot of those muscles and movements that you do that make you look good, people generally are doing 1 plane of motion, right? So if you had to ask yourself, am I doing movements where I'm moving side to side, or I'm rotating and I'm like actually translating motion with my body, where I'm like maybe running through a ladder or doing different movements? Ultimately, I think a lot of people don't train these other planes of motion, right? Many people will know and tell you what a sit-up is, but when you ask them, oh, what about a transverse hold, right? Give that a YouTube or a Google search, or a Paloff hold, P-A-L-O-F-F hold. They don't know what that is, but yet it's probably one of the best things you can do to strengthen your core. So ultimately, training in 3 planes of motion is the best kept secret, or worst kept secret, really, that everybody's not doing out there. Everybody's doing one thing, and that's just the stuff that makes you look good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
With that one, what would be your favorite go-to training exercise? What would you, what's the exercise that you love to do, or that you love to teach?
Yeah, it depends on the person, depends on the client. But I will say there's not one program that I have that does not have a transverse hold. So like, basically, if you are, standing at a cable machine, or if you have a band, you can real simply you loop a band against the pole, you turn yourself so that you're perpendicular to the pole, and you push the band away from you. You'll feel your stomach will be working, right? And the band will be pulling you to the side, and you'll just be resisting it. That's a staple in every program. That's your ability to stabilize. Like if someone kind of like pushed you from the side, or if you were resisting sideways force or rotational force, it's so important for protecting the spine. And it's where we generate all of our strength from. So
nice, Josh. Love that.
Yeah.
Because life is 3-dimensional. I mean, think about it. You're in your car. Well, I'm not in my car so much since I don't live in LA, thank goodness.
Yeah.
You reach around in the back seat, right, to grab something. And you hear oftentimes many people hurt their back doing that. So if you're training that, your odds are going to go down, right?
Yeah. I've got quite a bit of clients from that injury. They're like, yeah, I was just reaching back in my back seat, and my neck or something like tweaked, and I'm like, wow, all right, well, we got some work to do. Yeah.
Since we're kind of on training, and these, again, it's a huge topic amongst our employee wellness clients as well as individuals, is, there's a lot of talk about HIIT, high intensity interval training. Maybe some of our listeners don't even know what that is, or why you might want to be training in that realm or not. Yeah. Could you just touch on that topic, because it does come up quite frequently?
Yeah, and HIIT has a lot of benefits. There's man, how long do we have? There's
a little bit extra today, Josh. Keep going.
Yeah. Right, and there's different types of training out there, and it's all, I would say it's goal dependent, but it's also like, you always want to ask yourself, what do I do a lot of? Because maybe I should be trying to practice doing something else. So maybe if you're someone who does a lot of HIIT, maybe you should start working on a different training program. Whereas if you're someone who never does HIIT, maybe it's something that you can incorporate into your training program, right? And HIIT is essentially an abbreviation for high intensity interval training. And pretty much, it's pretty much doing short bouts of high intensity work. And you want to think like, maybe it's like a sprint on a bike, or a sprint on a treadmill, or maybe a sprint outside. It could be any form of movement, really. I'm just using this as an example, but like maybe you work really hard as you can for about 15 seconds. And then you do like an active recovery where you walk or you pedal slowly for about 45 seconds. And then when that time's up, you go again. these recommendations for this type of exercise are on the lower side than other types of exercise. So like high intensity interval training, right? Like in a week, you probably should only be doing about 45 to 60 minutes in total of that, because it puts a lot of strain on the body. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of metabolic waste in the body that your body has to repair. But also like, you know, depending on how hard you push and like what's going on, there's other things that you just don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, you had a key phrase, Josh. I want you to go back. Sorry, you said metabolic waste. Can you touch on that just a little bit more?
Yeah. So a lot of times, like the body, right? So I always tell my clients, right, if you work really hard, you're gonna have to recover pretty hard too, right? Like you can't just work hard all the time and not recover just as equally, right? So if we were to do high intensity interval training, what happens is there's a buildup of a lot of metabolic waste, like a lot of, basically like when you start the car and there's exhaust being put out, that exhaust is what your body has in its blood, and it takes time to like get rid of it. This like lactic acid, there's a lot of buffering of this acid to get your blood back to like a more basic level. And essentially like it takes time and recovery and rest, and movement actually helps, but not high intensity movement. So it definitely, it takes your body some time, and listening to your body is important too, right? Like, yeah, if you're still feeling the effects of that, the soreness, it's okay to move, but maybe we don't train as hard as we did in the previous session. Yeah.
It felt like you're talking to me directly, Josh.
Yeah.
You got to listen to your body, guys. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there's two types of people, right? People you push and people you pull back. And knowing which one you are is important too. Yeah.
I like that. The push and the pull groups. So on that word metabolic, we promote what we call resistance training to all of our clients, and a lot for the metabolic benefits. You talked about metabolic waste there, but this idea that your muscular system is one of the largest storage centers for blood glucose. And through resistance training, you get a big bang for your buck on that. And that said, some people think they can only get a metabolic benefit by doing cardiovascular training. Could you talk a little bit about the metabolic benefits from, let's say training to failure, that might also be some form of cardiovascular benefit?
I think, in my experience training in all ways, the question is, what can I do for the longest period of time sustainably? Right. And I don't mean like in one bout. I mean, like if I had to do this for the rest of my life, what can I do sustainably? Right. And everybody has different forms of training, whether that's like a bodybuilder split where they do upper body and lower body. Other people do high intensity interval training. I try to encourage a full body routine, right? Because a full body routine is something that you can do 3 times a week and recover from it, and also do other things like cardio, right? Because cardio is kind of like the thing that builds cardio is the tool that builds the gas tank in order for you to do resistance training, right? So think of cardio as like a base layer underneath your musculoskeletal system, and then it's going to allow you to perform more work when you lift weights. But ultimately, what happens is when you do cardiovascular exercise, you do use up energy, you use up body fat, you use up blood sugar, but it's only for the duration that you're using that system, right? So like if you run for 45 minutes, your body's going to continue to burn some excess calories in the form of energy or like blood sugar, body fat stores for just a little bit after. But if you were to lift weights, what happens is your body has to recover and get rid of those substrates and break down the body fat and blood sugar that you have stored in the body. And it's called excess post-oxygen consumption, right? And it's excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC. And that lasts way longer, right? Some people it's 12 hours later, some people it's 24 hours later, and it depends on how hard you worked out and how long it takes you to recover. That's usually what you feel when you like lift weights and then you're like hot at night, right? You're like heating up in your bed. That's your body trying to work to recover. But ultimately, yeah, I would say they're both good together and separately from each other. Like if you're just doing one or you're just doing the other, then you're missing a lot of what you have to gain, a lot of what you have to grow. Yeah.
Nice. But we keep weaving through this whole idea of recovery, right? You might actually need more recovery from resistance training. And, this is a piece of, we live in a very all or nothing society. I'm going to kill the gym for 6 days in a row. And then something happens. But I think the more we can encourage people to build in the rest and recovery, maybe we don't get so much all or nothing.
That longevity. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like there's a reason for it. I think it's very important. I think there's something, it has to do with like, I don't know if it's hustle culture or whatever, but there's a badge of honor of like overworking yourself, whether that is in the workplace or in the gym, that for some reason is, in certain circles, people look at it as like, wow, they must work hard, but like you have to recover. If you don't, then there's going to be problems that you're going to wish you did recover. You just have to rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go to one early comment that kind of just flew out of my thing. It was from Ken Patterson. Hi, Ken. I don't know if you're here. It's more on the diet aspect. Would you say that sugar is the 100% or close to it, the source of cardiovascular disease? I'm just going to interrupt right now. We're not giving any personal medical advice here. That said, and then the rest of his statement is, I have not seen that stated this clearly, but it seems the key. I'm on a carnivore diet for some 8 months plus eggs. But how about we just tackle that sugar piece? What about sugar and training? You'll see a lot of people down some smoothie drink to go work out or post that. Let's talk about sugar.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I'm not the foremost leading expert on this one, but I would always argue that having foods in their whole form is important, right? I think nature has sugars tied to fiber for a reason, right? Like if you have an orange, there's the pulp material, that like stringy material is fibrous, and it really slows down the absorption of sugar. Whereas if you have maybe like a drink or like some kind of manufactured thing, it causes more of a spike because there's none of that fiber, right? There's none of that material in there that slows the digestion and spreads it out over time for use in the body. Instead, it spikes, and when it spikes really quickly, there's a large response from the body, right? There's an equal response. Same thing as like if you work out really hard, you have to recover really hard. If you have a lot of sugar really quickly with no fiber, the response from the body is really sharp, and it causes a lot of inflammation, essentially. And inflammation can lead to the inflammatory response is essentially what leads to like damaging of arterial walls, right? Like that's usually what causes that plaque buildup over time. So that's what I would tell people.
We're really a whole foods diet promoter, as well as in this case, Ken would advise also working with a continuous glucose monitor to see, because everybody has such a personal response to both sugars, particularly those in the liquid form, to, as Josh mentioned, in the real form, like a fruit or something. But that's one way to really see your body's sensitivity and then have a better insight on, is it causing damage? Is it causing volatility that could lead to more inflammation in the body? CGMs are a great tool on that. As we started getting towards the end here, were you ready for something, Jeremiah? Or
yeah, I have one. I wanted to shift back to EW real quick, to employee wellness, and
absolutely.
I know Josh has worked with a lot of corporate teams, clients, people in corporate America. Josh, what are you seeing on that side of the fence? Are people in programs? Are programs not as effective as they used to be? Are people not launching employee wellness programs? I have a bit of that answer. Obviously, some of the research that we've done as we've launched our program. But what are you seeing as you work with individuals and in their programs or the lack thereof?
Yeah, I think there's a few things there. I think, like I said, it depends. And as you work with like more and more companies, larger scales, right? The question is always, all right, am I getting to address the individual, or am I just giving a broad stroke? And it depends on where the person's at, because if someone has suffered maybe an injury or a like something traumatic, then they require more specialized individual attention, separate or in addition to the corporate wellness program. Participation in corporate wellness programs definitely depends on location. I mean, you definitely get quite a bit of participation in Los Angeles. However, I would say that it could be better. And I think it has to do with people's, their priorities being maybe centered around work. But when I talk to people, and I try to get in front of people often, I say, hey, you seem to enjoy and love what you do. What if I told you that I could help you do it for longer and better, right? What if I told you that if you worked on this, you would actually have way more energy throughout the day. You would feel better. You'd be able to go the whole day without having 3 cups of coffee or multiple, energy drinks. It definitely, the corporate wellness space, I think it exists, and it's great that it exists, but I think it's far underutilized, right? The usage is it can improve for sure.
You validated my thought about LA too. Awesome.
Yeah.
Josh,
and
go ahead, Krisna.
Yeah, 2 last things as we start thinking about wrapping up. One is fitness testing, mobility testing. Some insights on that, how that could maybe help your making it individual. Because employee wellness programs on a group events are tough, because we always have a wide spectrum of capabilities, injuries, ages, all the things. But does fitness testing, and I want to say most people, when they think of fitness testing, they think of VO2 max testing, not body mobility testing. Give us some of your insights on what testing could be done.
Yeah, so there's multiple forms of testing I do with my clients. There's mobility assessments. If you can, try to make sure that you get your mobility screened before starting a training program. It's important to know what your limitations are or what you might need to improve. A good way to do this is by undergoing a functional movement screen. So functional movement screen, it's a great way to assess your mobility. A lot of providers exist in the world. You can go to their website, and if you search on there, you'll be able to find one local to you. And that is pretty much the foundation that tells me like what we can do safely, what we can challenge you with weight, like what types of movements are good to do, and what movements we might need to work on before we ever start picking up weights. A lot of people will just take a cookie cutter program without addressing mobility, but you don't want to build strength on top of dysfunction, right? Because then your foundation's pretty shaky. So that's my biggest thing I try to preach to all our trainers and all our coaches out here. But in terms of like fitness testing, there's VO2 max testing, right? There's like, that's assessing your cardiovascular health. And then there's a bunch of strength metrics based on like your body weight and like things that you should be able to do. Like you should be able to carry about half your body weight in a kettlebell form or dumbbell form for a farmer's carry. You should be able to carry that. Yeah, you should be able to carry that for at least 30 steps or 30 seconds. You should be able to, depending on male or female, the metrics are a little different, but like you should be able to squat your body weight with a kettlebell or a dumbbell, like in front of you. If you hold it in front of you and you do a squat, you should be able to do that about 20 to 25 times with half your body weight, right? And that's a strength metric that would tell you that you are very.
I don't know if I could. That seems intense. Wow.
Yeah. That would tell you.
Number one.
Yeah, and there's, by all means, I'm not saying to go out there and try.
I'm gonna go try tomorrow, Josh.
No, I would definitely start that test lower, maybe like at 25% of your body weight, and then over time you work up to it. But there's lots of metrics out there that we use, but the only ones really that we choose to measure are the ones relevant to the client, right? So like if the client's trying to train for a marathon, then a VO2 max test is the one we're using. But if they're trying to improve their deadlift, then that's the one we're going to do, right? But essentially I would tell everybody, like, can you move your body well, and can you move it pain-free through different movements, right? All the movements that we do with weight, can we just do that without weight really well, perfect, and doesn't hurt, right? Make sure that doesn't hurt. But yeah, so I would say fitness testing is huge. If you don't test, if you don't assess what you're doing, you don't know if you made progress, and you don't know if what you're doing is working. So that is the biggest reason for testing.
I love that. And I like the phrase, don't build strength on dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
That's good in the business world as well, Chris.
Just
what would you say?
Yes, again, talking about longevity, it's in the title of your website. Again, can we pull up where, I see we've got up here where you can get touch with Jeremiah and I at ovadiahearthealth.com/wellness.
Krisna, let's encourage that. We've had some really good calls from you guys recently about individual private practice questions, play wellness questions, play wellness strategy calls. So take the time and dig in with us. You got a great team right here in front of you. And
if you want to get in touch with Josh, last but at least you can get on this waiting list. That may take a while, but still, maybe even they just want to reach out and pick your brain a little bit there. So this has been incredible. Wealth of information. Where do you see the business, strength training, resistance training, personal training? If you have any thoughts on where employee wellness should be thinking, where are people missing the boat, as a kind of last closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, man, there's so much there. I would say, I think you're going to continue to see a lot of offerings from AI companies on strength training. And I think that is great. And I think that these tools will help people start a program, but I'm not convinced that it'll help people continue or persist with a program. And I think a lot of this technology has been around for a while. And the thing I found personally is that the knowledge is out there. The fitness knowledge, you can find it if you go out and you Google, what should I be doing for a workout? The knowledge is out there, but the ability to have someone with you that keeps you accountable to making changes is just, it's hard to separate that, or it's hard to incorporate that into technology at the moment. And we might be able to do it in the future. For the time being, I think that there's some benefit to it, but I would encourage everybody to work with somebody. Even other trainers, they say coaches need coaches or trainers need trainers. We all work with somebody. Yeah, we all work with someone, and it's definitely having that ego, or putting aside our ego, to work with somebody.
Josh, you're the trainer's coach. That's who you are.
Yeah. Luckily I get to learn from other trainers too. I try to approach everybody as like, what can I learn from them, right? Yeah. Sorry, the other part of your question was where do I see fitness, corporate wellness? I think that we've pushed so hard towards like getting everybody to exercise and work out, and I think that it's good, and I think that it's really great. And you even saw the trend of like recovery start, right? Where everybody is doing cold plunges and saunas and meditation. And I think it's all great. But I think that people right now, they're a little confused or overwhelmed by all of it because they're all thinking that they should be doing every single modality that exists. So I think 5 to 10 years from now, I think sooner, maybe 5, I think that it will get a little bit more clear about, hey, you don't need to do all of these, but based on how you are today or what your goal is, these are what you should be doing, right? And getting more information out there of like, this is the routine you should have for your life, for your lifestyle, for your goal, and for the benefits that you need, right? You don't have to do a cold plunge every day, but if you want to, go ahead. But yeah, I think that's where the future of wellness is going. It's more the future of like well-being and like just being well, as opposed to trying to get well. And I think right now we're in that reactive state, and eventually I think we can get there, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
Awesome. I see that's a great place for us to wrap up today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule there in LA. Once again, you can get in touch with Jeremiah and talk to us about our metabolic health programs. We're really trying to make a difference. We're helping people make it simple.
We're making a big difference with our clients, guys. Join in and dig in with us.
And if
Josh, thank you.
Reach Josh at Longevity. You'll have to help me out. You're Chris. There we go. Longevity training. Fabulous, Josh. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And well, keep doing what you're doing.
You're leading the way, Josh. Chris, thank you for leading us through our longest live stream ever. Well done. Great work. And we will see you back here for more, team. We'll keep it going.
And
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Awesome work, Josh.
Okay. Right. See you all next week at the same time.
Yeah. Who do we got next week? Real quick. We got somebody special coming.
Next week, we have Angela Stanton talking with us about migraines. She's a migraine expert.
Awesome.
Angela Stanton, PhD. She'll be our guest. And then after that will be Jen Cleveland talking to us about pre-diabetes. So we're going to the brain next week.
Awesome work. Good stuff right here, team. Thank you. Well done, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.